Comics. All right, well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Comic Box, part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. I am your host, Rob, your friendly neighborhood comic geek, and this is yet another very special episode because I am joined yet again by Liam.
Three-peat,
the third time Liam has been here. And here's the cool thing. If you head over to Twitter, I would say right now, but right now doesn't actually make sense because we're not live at all. But right before we started recording, I sent up a picture. You can actually see what this guy looks like.
That's me.
That's him.
In the flesh.
That's all his beard. It is, none of that is, all right, you can go ahead here. I'm gonna swing the mic.
Get at me for some nudes.
Get it in there. Yeah. All beard. All Liam.
Oh, yeah. It's like shag carpet on my face.
I don't know how you can sleep with that, honestly.
Doesn't bother me one bit.
Oh, no. I used to have the beard, and then I thought it was fine. I thought it didn't bother me, and then I shaved it off, and it was like everything was silk.
See, I sleep on the side of my face.
Yeah, well,
but
yeah. You don't, sleep in your beard.
Yeah, it doesn't come up over my... so, yeah.
All right, so game plan for today, this evening, I suppose. This is a late night recording. For me, in particular, I usually don't record this late.
It's the Comic Box,
which means
After Dark.
I like it. Comic Box After Dark.
Mm-hmm.
That might end up in the title, yeah. But no, it's just for me as the evening goes on and my voice starts dropping down into like that, you know what I mean? That night voice.
Yeah.
But in any case, with San Diego Comic-Con, we went through a whole bunch of trailers mostly, and then little nuggets of news. And I actually just recorded earlier today a regular episode of the podcast where I pulled some of the news stories that I have in the Word doc here that I don't think you know of, and we might get to them. We're going to keep an eye on the time so we're not running too long. But first, obviously, because of course everybody wants to know, how have you been?
Pretty good.
Yeah? What's your, as they say on the normal Geek to Geek podcast, they call it the weekly geekery. It's been more than a week since we've seen you on the show, but so what have you been geeking out with recently? Is there anything that you have been... Well, I hope there's stuff you've been reading because I've loaned you some things, but...
Yes.
Reading or watching or playing.
Yep. Next up is the Alan Moore Swamp Thing that you lent me. That's the next thing on my reading docket. I've been getting real hardcore into the Viking culture because I've been rereading American Gods in preparation for that show coming back out, which... looking forward to big time.
Oh, yeah.
And I also have started watching the show Vikings on the History Channel.
Okay.
Which I dig it. I think it's, without the nudity, just as good as Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And easier to follow, less characters. It's one of those situations. It's good intrigue, good fighting, good sets and costuming. And
we're good. I'm sorry, I'm moving the mic, and then there's the springs on it, so I had that little hum while doing it. No, we're fine. So, I'm just leaning forward because I'm so interested in what you have to say that I'm getting picked up a little better in the mic.
So I've also been collecting my vinyl pop figures.
Yeah.
I got some Labyrinth ones and some Dark Crystal ones. So I was pretty happy about that. I got Ludo, the big guy.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. So.
Okay, well, I'm happy for you that is working out. So if you're doing the Viking stuff, you have to go and watch 13th Warrior.
Oh, you think I've gone this far in my life without seeing 13th Warrior?
No, I'm just saying if you're redoing Viking stuff.
Okay.
There's that.
I did just watch that maybe a month and a half ago, actually.
Awesome movie.
Before I started watching it. The king from the 13th Warrior.
Yeah.
He makes an appearance in Vikings.
Awesome.
He doesn't last long, but he's in for 4 or 5 episodes.
He's kind of that actor, though. He's played a lot of those types of roles. Yeah.
I told my friend I'm watching it with, I was like, if he wasn't in this show, we'd have to just turn it off.
And I love it because, and it's actually one of the trailers that they had at New York Comic Con, but unlike, say, what is the movie called? Great Wall?
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah, The Great Wall. Unlike that one in 13th Warrior, you have not a white guy
Yeah.
as your main character, as the foreigner who has to learn about other cultures. And I appreciated that.
And the white guys are foreign white guys.
Yeah.
It's not like Americans
Like I said, I just
that
sort
are
of,
just like, hey,
the
how's it
usual,
going, bro?
Yeah.
I'm totally a Viking. Sup?
Yeah.
They get some good, like, Norwegian and like Scandinavian actors. The guy who plays Blackfish in this season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He's also one of the 13.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, he lasts almost to the end.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Puts up a hell of a fight.
Yeah, I totally forgot about
Again,
that.
I just rewatched it, so I was like, hey, that guy.
And then, of course, there's Eric the Viking.
Of course, there's Eric the Viking.
Which is just its own Viking movie. All right.
Only an Arab would bring a dog to war.
I saw it
it's a
once.
fun movie.
I honestly don't remember if I made it all the way through it. If I didn't, it was not because I was disliking it. It would have just been because I started watching. It was like, I don't know, something else happened. I have other things more important than this movie. But yes, entertaining.
I bought it on VHS before I had ever seen it.
Yeah, good man. See, that's just a smart move.
When Mr. Movies is going out of sale,
yes,
you just buy it.
Oh man,
blind buy. I want to
get Luke, another buddy of ours from college. I want to get him on the podcast because as far as obscure movies, and especially the Mr. Movies by our college campus, when it was going out of business, we got, oh man, what was it? Backlash something 2. Like it was a sci-fi western.
Ooh.
It was bad.
Oh,
it was
sounds
bad.
Amazing.
I know. It amazingly bad, but it was
Backlash. Starting there, you're just like, ah.
Well, here, I'm sitting in front of a computer. The audience can wait.
Man.
If I put Backlash 2, Oblivion 2. Okay, so it was Backlash, Oblivion 2. So I will simply say, yeah, it's an
None
alien.
of that makes any sense to someone who
the
hasn't
alien
seen
western. The alien. This is the summary. Okay, I'm gonna read this to you. In the alien western world of Oblivion, a suave yet lethal bounty hunter named Sweeney arrives to arrest the seductive outlaw Lash on multiple charges, including murder. Lash, who just inherited a mine of Dirconium, the most valuable mineral in the universe, from Crowley in a game of cards, meets up with Red Eye's.
Crowley.
Meets up with Red Eye's brother, Jagger, who wants the mine for himself.
Jagger's in the mix?
Who wants the mine for himself to rule the galaxy. It's a fight over Lash between the Sheriff of Oblivion, Jagger, and Sweeney, but who will emerge victorious? So,
wow.
Just as an example for everybody of what, and if you want to look at that,
I can see so much.
Can you stick your head around and sort of see
I
this?
Can see.
So it's a dude with the robot arm reaching for a pistol.
The Millennium Falcon flying over him?
Basically, yeah, because in front of it's like a showdown in the road, and then the other chick is just very leather dominatrix. And then for some reason, a light is shining on her from the Millennium Falcon flying by. It's
It was a good buy.
Oh, it was a good buy. It resulted in a good evening. All right, we're totally going off topic. I don't know if that'll make it in the cut. I hope so.
It should.
I hope so. So I have in no particular order. So I don't have comic book stuff first or anything like that. I just wrote down as I did research. Are we okay scrambling?
Yeah.
Through these? Awesome. That makes, I think, for more entertaining because the randomness of it helps.
Of course.
So of the
Fresh
trailers...
take.
Yeah, so of the trailers I threw at you, let's start with the two sort of action series that I'm sure some people feel have gone on way too long, both coming out in January, is Underworld, Blood Wars, and Resident Evil, The Final Chapter. So I'm
saying
just going to...
the final chapter is like saying that it's, the farewell tour for Kiss or the Rolling
and it
Stones.
Doesn't, if it makes money, that's...
Yeah.
They're going to
And what else
just
is
like
Mila
Freddy's,
Jovovich doing?
The final, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. Wasn't there like 2 or 3 times we've had a last chapter of Friday the 13th?
Oh, yeah. The Halloween franchise has had,
Maybe that's what I was thinking. Yeah, the final.
They always do one where it's the final, and then, oh, wait.
No, it made money.
Yeah, can we take Manhattan this time, maybe?
Jason hails a cab. But I will say, I'm an Underworld fan. I've actually been playing, it came out just like 2 days ago. There's a cell phone game that's okay. That's like a card game sort of thing.
Like everything in the Underworld universe. It's okay.
But I will say I love the design. I love the production design of the Underworld movies, and I believe the dude's name is Patrick Tatopoulos, and he was the guy who ended up directing the prequel, the third movie.
Yeah, which I liked, actually.
And, I mean, way too much CG, but
Rona Mitra.
It was all because of budget.
Yeah.
Like, they had no budget, and they tried to do a bigger story. And then I have my own whole personal issue where they put out a novel that was
of
between...
course they did.
No, but hear me out. It wasn't a novelization.
What a novel idea.
It wasn't a novelization. It was an in-universe book that took place between, like, the first and it came out between the first and second movies, and it was like a prequel book, so it told the story of the origin of the war between the vampires and the werewolves, and then it split that between a story about Celine investigating where the glowing bullets came from after the end of the first... No, it was actually... I take that back. Both stories took place before the first Underworld, because she was just learning that there's some sort of new ammunition out there but doesn't know what it is yet, and they don't know where it's coming from, and then the first time she sees it is in the opening scene of
the first movie.
But in any case, it was just the way they did it in that book was far better than how they did it in the prequel.
Okay.
But I get it. Anyway, I have all sorts of things I could do a whole thing on Underworld, but this is not an Underworld podcast. And then Resident Evil, I haven't seen the last, 2 or 3.
See, I've seen all of them. I'm a fan of that franchise.
Okay. I know I got through the third one.
See, I think that first one is pretty solid.
The first one's a solid movie,
pretty close to what a first game was like. Not perfect, but pretty close.
The first game, they're trapped in the mansion the whole time.
You know,
instead of an underground high-tech lab.
Yeah, it starts to go off the rails a little bit, but it's fun. It's a real amped-up action movie feel to it.
The first half of the second one is awesome, and then they get into the weird superhero fight. The moment that she appears through, a third-story window in a motorcycle with no explanation of how she got there, that is the moment where the whole series goes off the rails, and at that point, you need to throw away all logic and just enjoy the movies. And if you do that, I think you're fine.
Well, they had me when I saw in the trailer her running down the building with the rappelling gear on, shooting the guns. So that to me is one of my favorite action movie moments. Yeah. In anything. I just think that was totally
Well, if you like
awesome.
that, get ready. Well, you saw let's skip ahead to the Great Wall, because they have that in the trailer as well.
Yeah, I did.
Where they have dudes running down the wall with swords or whatever.
God bless Matt Damon.
Because it's yet another.
Look how many people
the foreign white dude has to be the hero of another culture's war.
In all the movie trailers that we watched, I spotted probably 4 at least Game of Thrones actors.
Oh, this is true. So
we have Pedro Pascal, the guy who played Oberyn Martell. In this The Great Wall.
He's always on the side of the frame in every shot he's in, though. You never really get a full shot of and by the way, this dude you really liked in Game of Thrones is in it too. It's always Matt Damon, and then he sticks his head in and is one-liner. I hope you know what you're doing, and then he disappears again.
It shows the two of them in a lot of we're doing stuff together scene, but every single shot it's Matt Damon. Yeah. You're like, oh, so Matt Damon's in that movie.
And then I feel like he's got a really weird accent in it. So, I mean, because I'm sure he's supposed to be from somewhere, whoever was trading with him. Backing up for a second, Underworld, you going to go see it in the theater?
Probably not theater.
Okay. I am, but I'm not doing the 3D. The last 3D movie I saw was the 4th Underworld film, just because I'm a fan of the series, and again, the design, and some parts of it were okay. I still don't like 3D. And they're getting really 3D. Same as Resident Evil is getting really 3D in how they're shooting the film.
I saw that last of the Resident Evils in the 3D. And, sure, it's fun. It's gimmicky. But it's a little more distracting to me than it is, enjoyable.
So is that going to be a theater one for you, Resident Evil?
I probably will see
just
that
because
one.
You dig the Resident Evil? Which is interesting, because you are not a horror guy.
I have an adult story to tell about how I first saw that original one.
We'll talk about that afterward.
It's not sexual in nature.
Yeah.
I had a friend. This friend had a jealous, possessive type boyfriend.
Okay.
And we both enjoyed the herbal stuff together.
Some herbal tea.
And so we went over to watch some Simpsons. 15 minutes after I got there, she thinks her boyfriend is coming. So I needed to leave. So instead of being able to go home, I was like, well...
I guess I'll go see Resident Evil.
I guess I'll go see Resident Evil.
Those people and their tea. Their herbal tea.
It's the worst.
Yes. So you'll probably see Resident Evil in the theater. Good. Now I can...
And I'll probably have some herbal tea.
And some herbal tea. So Great Wall. We assume we're both gonna skip that one.
I will see that in a cold.
Now
distant
here's the
future.
thing: if it's mostly like a kung fu action movie, and they were all about hyping the fact that everybody is now, and I don't want this to sound insensitive, but is it just me or is every kung fu director visionary? Like if it's a kung fu movie,
if they make an American movie,
yeah,
they are a visionary, because otherwise they'd still just be doing stuff in
the Hong Kong
other
action,
part of the world
which
that
is
we
good action.
in.
Yeah.
You know, and
so that's the Great Wall. Yeah,
a lot of back and forth. But Charles Dance, how did they get him for the Underworld series? Oh man,
you have to have a proper British guy.
you do. I know Bill Nighy is out of it now, but.
They'll find a way.
How'd they get him in the first place?
They put him. He dies in the first movie, and they still have him in 3 of them.
Yeah,
3 out of the 4 that are currently out. But no, I think
God bless his British soul for needing a paycheck.
Oh, I love that man though.
Yeah,
I absolutely.
It's reason like that he can do hot shots and hot fuzz just pop up for a minute.
Just do whatever he feels like.
You know.
Yeah. Oh, I love that guy.
Yeah.
Pirate Radio.
I'm sorry, I haven't indulged in that one.
Oh, that's gonna happen. We're gonna have to watch that movie. Is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Next trailer we had was a Walking Dead season 7. It wasn't a trailer, but we got a scene from season 7. Now, have you read any of the comic book, or do you watch the show?
I read some of the first run of the comics.
Yeah,
and I watched a couple episodes of the show.
But in either case, you're not really in it.
Again, I like my Resident Evil zombies a bit more than I like my Walking Dead zombies.
And they're totally different, because Resident Evil is very much the spectacle of it all. There's certainly some of that in Walking Dead, and they have their... every episode they try and find an interesting way to present a zombie. Like, this one is stuck to the asphalt because it melted, and, whatever, and that sort of thing.
This one doesn't have a jaw, so it can't bite you. And,
yeah, exactly. But Walking Dead is very much sort of an ongoing soap opera. It's about the characters and their relationships and dealing with this world. The zombies are just the catalyst for the actual story.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, then they're the ones that show up every once in a while to screw things up. But in general, it's, always people. So that's fine. Though I will say this, and I'm assuming you don't mind if I spoil things. So this is spoilers for other people. Though again, the show no longer really follows the comics that closely.
Definitely a deviation.
But there's an allusion in this scene where Negan, who's Jeffrey Dean Morgan, which is awesome that it's Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
I love him.
Though also very weird that he's not in the comics. He drops F-bombs like every other word, and obviously in the show, for whatever reason, they can't. He's saying all of these things about whether or not he has a right-hand man. So it's this, in the comic books, it's the mayor actually who does this, but Rick loses a hand. His hatchet is taken from him, and his hand gets chopped off, and he's missing a hand for the, obviously, rest of the books. He's got a hook for a hand.
Doesn't regrow?
Doesn't regrow. So at the end of this scene, we see Negan tuck the hatchet into his belt and drag Rick towards the trailer, and he makes that comment about whether or not he had a right-hand man, or, oh, is that person I just killed, was that your right-hand man, or whatever. And so I'm led to believe that maybe we're going to see some chop-chop, but I also don't know, because that's very expensive to try and deal with for an entire show.
Yeah, for the main character.
Yeah, it's like on Ash vs. Evil Dead, as soon as they could, they got him a new robot hand, because the actor just wants to use the hand.
Skywalker did it.
Yeah, that's it. Everybody gets it. War for the Planet of the...
To a much lesser extent, Anakin Skywalker did it.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. War for the Planet of the Apes trailer. Have you seen any of the Planet of the Apes?
I saw the first one. I haven't seen the most recent one.
Because the first one was Dawn?
Dawn.
And then the second one was Rise.
And this is War.
Yeah. And it was very simple. It was just like it showed the snow
building to create
on
a
the
profile
face,
of the...
and then it blows away. And then there's a voiceover. I haven't seen any of these, so I have absolutely no frame of reference. I've heard they're pretty good, but...
The first one that I did see, it was really good.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen Planet of the Apes, the original.
Of course,
the first 2 or 3 of the original series.
I might have only seen the original.
I think there's 5 of those.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. There's also a TV series.
Yes, there was.
That. Yeah. And I've seen, of course, the Marky Mark Wahlberg version. It's the best version.
The Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys are apes. I don't understand what's going on here. Why is everybody a monkey? Side your mother for me. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was, Abe Lincoln.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's like teaser for a teaser for a teaser, I imagine. They're just saying, hey, this movie's happening. I guess cool.
So it used to be campy. Now it's, gritty realism. They like that these days.
Yep.
So I think it'll be good. And Andy Serkis is doing the mocap work as always. So
as everybody, yeah.
It's going to be good from a technical perspective. Even if you don't care for the movie, you're like, okay, that was well done.
A couple more non-comic ones, very quick. The teaser, there was a trailer for a TV show on IFC called Stan Against Evil.
Oh, yeah, totally going to watch that.
Which looks like...
John C. McGinley versus witches?
Yeah.
Oh, why didn't this get done like 15 years ago?
It very much looks like if I can say this, the store brand version of Ash vs. Evil Dead, where we have our humorous lead who doesn't really want to deal with this, but he's going to, and then we get lots of blood and whatever. So I look forward to people making comparisons, though.
Yeah.
Like I'm fine with it. I haven't seen any of Ash vs. Evil Dead season 2 yet. I stayed on top of season 1. I thought it was okay. And this is keeping in mind I am a massive Evil Dead fan. Just a massive, massive Evil Dead fan. But that looks pretty good. How about the Power Rangers trailer? Now, were you a Power Rangers kid?
Oh, as you know, for a short while, I was a part of the original cast. I very graciously handed off the role to Amy Jo Johnson
to play Kimberly.
But I think the way that I played it was a little different than
Should
the way
I even explain this? Or do I just leave it out there?
I'd say leave it dangle. A joke for two is better than a joke for 2,000.
So only you and I understand the joke that we were, in fact, a part of the original cast for Power Rangers.
So
I never got to suit up necessarily, but yeah.
I was, of course, a fan of the original.
The original.
Up to a certain point. When it was no longer the original, it was beyond what I cared about.
Sure. But. So this seems to say that they find the coins, I guess.
Yeah.
But they're just rocks, and everybody just immediately gets their superpowers. So it's like reverse kryptonite.
It's like a YA novel version of the Power Rangers.
I guess, but I mean, and they appeared to show something, but the whole point of the Power Rangers were they were called to duty.
Yeah.
Where in this one, it's like, oh, we happen to find a thing, and we just happen to be a surprisingly diverse group of teenagers who enjoy wearing one color every day.
Maybe what we'll find out is that ultimately Thanos is waiting to get his hands
on each of the coins.
On each of these coins.
Each that make they.
Yep.
We'll just call it a what would it be? The Power Mitten rather than the Infinity Gauntlet as their world. And here is one little piece of news for you, though. We know that Rita Repulsa is in it as the villain.
Yeah.
Goldar has also been confirmed as being in the show. I hope it's...
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, I hope it's also the same thing where only, like, the upper lip can move slightly. Because that was all they could afford for the animatronics.
Yeah, which was a lot.
Yeah, I don't plan on seeing this movie. I'll just say that flat. I don't. Like, if I get dragged to it or... I
See, I'll probably have a tall glass of herbal tea and take a watch at it.
Yeah.
But I'm not in any hurry for it.
Yeah.
I think it might be kind of sort of fun, but I think a better version of this would be Voltron.
Yeah. No, a live action Voltron would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Or just get crazy with it. VR
Netflix
Troopers,
awesome.
Big Bad Beetleborgs.
Yeah, Big Bad
That's
Beetleborgs.
That's a cut for Fletch, if and ever Fletch watches. He was a Beetleborg guy, I think. Last two that aren't comic book related, and then we can dig into the real meat. How are we doing on time? I feel like so we are already at 24 minutes. That's fine. John Wick Chapter 2. Never saw the first one. I need to. I know. I'm looking at your face right now through the beard.
What I
can
didn't have the pleasure of seeing the first one in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
I regret that.
Okay.
I saw it when it came to video,
yeah,
and instantly was like, this movie is great.
Because just as a random shoot 'em up, like how does it stack up against, like Boondock Saints would be probably one of my top shoot 'em ups.
Okay, Boondock Saints, the director is not so great.
Okay, well, we're not gauging it by Boondock Saints 2.
No, okay, good. That's a
totally
dark
different
scale.
monster. But John Wick good. John Wick
very
2.
good.
So what did you think of
the director and producer of the movie?
Yeah.
Who really, in actuality, were like co-directors, but the screen credits had to be, one had to be director, one had to be producer.
Yeah. The way that works.
They are former stuntmen,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of the people involved behind the scenes are all former stuntmen themselves. So they know how to make an action movie.
Cool.
So it's a lot of real practical effects. A lot of good close quarters combat. Like it's not shaky steady cam that's like right up in the act. Like you could
they're willing to
happening.
sit back and let you see, and that's something that's kind of rare, like in Daredevil, where they'll sit back a little bit and do it. I mean, obviously there were hidden cuts in the big hallway scene, but yeah, getting back to some of that action. No, I very much want to see it, and I'm sure it's got to be out by now if there are already trailers for the other one.
Ian McShane is in it. He's a big treat
for you, I know personally. Yeah.
So yeah, it creates this fun little world around these like hitmen that are in the first one. So
cool.
The first one was great. Really looking forward to this one. Definitely a theater movie for me.
Cool. The last one before we dig into comic book stuff is there was the Doctor Who spin-off Class. I've seen one episode of the newer Doctor Who, and I don't know that I made it through the whole thing.
I clicked on the link that you sent me.
Yeah.
It said Class.
Yeah.
I realized that it was a Doctor Who related entity.
Yeah.
And my immediate response is, who cares?
All right. I know people are huge fans, and
sure
I feel like it's a thing where you have to
they
dig in,
can
maybe.
That. They can totally have that.
Well, I mean, you know what I mean? There's some series that I know you need to sort of dig into, and some things certainly get better with age. For me, like Futurama, better with age. Like every time you go back and you watch it, you appreciate it more when originally it was airing alongside Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park, and you're like, it's good, but you weren't appreciating I wasn't appreciating the nuances. So it's possible Doctor Who is one of those. I don't want to alienate if I have any listeners out there who are huge.
Oh, I will alienate them.
I know you will. You can hide behind
Come
that
at me,
beard.
brah. I am not a fan of the Who.
All right, you ready to get into the real stuff? We've wasted a half hour doing nothing.
Let's get real.
All right, let's start with a biggie. Iron Fist. Trailer for the next Netflix thing. And now, have you seen all of Luke Cage?
No, I haven't started it because we were talking about maybe doing it as a thing.
Okay.
But since you already watched it...
That's true. We were talking about doing like a watch party, and then I went...
I'm on episode 9.
I went rogue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went rogue.
But yeah, totally going to watch that, and I'm very much looking forward to the Iron Man. Or the Iron Fist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my understanding is going to be a little lighter in tone. There are a few things we know of, those of us that pay attention and that sort of thing. There's a woman in there with a sword. My understanding is that is going to be Colleen Wing, or probably Colleen Wing, who there's a slight teaser, and I won't spoil anything for you for Luke Cage, but I will say there's virtually, we'll say, 99.9999% nothing for the only tease for Iron Fist you get in Luke Cage is the name Colleen Wing. That's it. So they are going to at least start out very separate.
Okay.
And
hopefully they'll bring them together.
Power Man and Iron Fist.
Defenders eventually.
But it looks like it's going to be good. And like I said, my understanding is it's supposed to be a little lighter. And I know that there's already people calling it a missed opportunity because they're going with the white dude who travels to the Orient to learn the secret kung fu abilities to bring back. But what people
it worked for David Carradine.
It did, and because here's the thing: both Power Man and Iron Fist were created during the 70s. Power Man was a direct response to the blaxploitation popularity, and Iron Fist was a direct response to the kung fu films of the 70s, which were white dudes learning the secrets of kung fu and coming back, and jump kicking people in the face.
Blind fury.
But there certainly, I think, was something to be said where, well, it could have been still an American. It could have just been the children of immigrants who gets to actually explore their own culture instead of it being, well, it's got to be a white dude because they're, the blank slate for the entire audience to put themselves into, according to executive producers. But I'm okay with them sticking, close to home. I don't know a whole lot about the Iron Fist story. I know the general origin story, which I will not share here. But
Ooh.
in any case, Netflix is killing it, dude. Like, Luke Cage was really good. I know you're going to really like Luke Cage. You might like it more than I did even. So, hooray for Iron Fist. Let's stay with Marvel. What else do I have in here for Marvel? Doctor Strange, there was no footage. There's a couple new posters and stuff out, but they did show 15 minutes of footage at the Comic-Con. And apparently it shows his trip through the astral plane. Like, in the trailer where the Ancient One touches her hand to his forehead and he gets, launched out of his own body.
Yep.
And then there's a thing where it just shows him getting launched backwards. I think it's that.
Okay.
And they said it is straight Steve Ditko, psychedelic, insane. So if that's what you've been waiting for in a comic book movie, it sounds like you're going to get it with... I'm so excited for this flick.
Yeah.
Because it's going to look different.
I'm not like a fan of the character, but I'm waiting to see this movie.
Yeah, and... part of me wants to say maybe even IMAX. I'm generally not an IMAX dude because it's too big. But there's the Burnsville Theater here, and I'm sure there's theaters like this all over the place where they have like the nice leather recliners and it's only $1 or $2 more expensive than a normal theater. But if you sit in the right spot, like in the center, you're much more comfortable. You have a nice seat, and the screen is still very large in that particular theater. So that's going to be my vote when we go see this movie.
Of course, they might have it at the zoo over yonder.
That's true, but again, then that's the big IMAX, and you're spending the whole time turning your head from left to right.
I saw V for Vendetta on that screen.
I've seen both the first 2 Batman movies I saw in IMAX, and I saw Deadpool in IMAX, and I gotta say, I like being able to appreciate the entire frame.
I can see once. That, yeah. Especially the first time you want to see
when you're seeing close-ups of people's face, like, give me a nature documentary and fine. But if you're showing me a close-up of somebody's face, I don't need them to tower above me, like Citizen Kane level.
Ooh.
Or Mom, I guess. We can say Mom if we're going to go Futurama jokes.
Yes.
But very much looking forward to that. The other Marvel one we had is Legion. Or did I send you... It wasn't a new trailer for it. Have you seen the trailer for Legion? So it's a show coming to FX.
Yes.
And so they also showed 20 minutes of footage, which also weren't online yet. And it shows him growing up and dealing with his mental issues, being in a hospital. And I guess the hook of the show is you can't actually trust what you're seeing in the show because you're seeing it from his point of view. And the point is he deals with mental illness and schizophrenia, multiple personalities. And each one of those personalities has a different mutant ability.
Okay.
And then the big hook is he's Professor X's son. And they were asking if Professor X is going to be in the show or whatever. And he's kind of like, well, that's sort of an element to the story. You see a wheelchair in the first episode, or maybe they saw a wheelchair in the footage that was shown or whatever. But I don't know if that means they're going to have Patrick Stewart or not.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
That photo you sent me.
That's right. Speaking of, this was not a trailer. There's no footage. But we have a poster for the 3rd Wolverine movie entitled Logan.
Looking forward
And there's
to
also a photo of very, very old Professor X. So the film takes place in 2024, I think. And we thought the main villain for this whole thing was going to be Mr. Sinister because there was a tease at the end of X-Men Apocalypse with the Essex Foundation or something. And Nathaniel Essex is Mr. Sinister, who was given his abilities, if I remember correctly, by Apocalypse.
He was indeed.
So that certainly made sense as a tease, but it seems like the villain in this one is going to be Donald Pierce, who is just sometimes known as Pierce, and I don't think it's meant to be because, like, Stab Pierce, it's just his last name, member of the Hellfire Club, which might be a deep cut for people who don't know X-Men stuff. Just consider it an evil organization of supervillains.
Yeah. And
so Donald Pierce is not a mutant. He's like a cyborg and the creator of the Reavers, who is a group of cybernetically enhanced, I guess, assassins, soldiers for hire sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also sounds like another character in here. We've pretty much been guaranteed this is going to be an X-23 story, which is cool. I'm just sad that it's taking place in the future. I want to see that take place in a modern setting so that we can get X-23 in future X-Men movies if we're not going to have Hugh Jackman around as Wolverine.
Yeah.
So for those unfamiliar, X-23 was a character introduced in the X-Men Evolution cartoon. So it was very much like a Harley Quinn creation where it started in the cartoon and was really popular. So they eventually transitioned her into the comics. In the comics, she is a clone that was unknowingly made, a clone of Wolverine, but the problem is the DNA they got from him was damaged, so they couldn't make a male clone of Wolverine, so they ended up needing to use different genetic material to make a female clone. So she has two claws, two out of each hand and one out of each foot is her thing. But then she has the regenerative capabilities like crazy, and I really like the character. I thought the X-Force comic that had her in it was really great. So I'm looking forward to it. I believe the actress playing it is an Olympic gymnast or something like that.
She was probably on Game of Thrones.
the way Hollywood is right now. That's true. But again, good for them.
Yeah.
They did a show right. All of the actors did a great job, and so now they're getting rewarded.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it sounds like this is Old Man Logan, kinda. Because you can't really do Old Man Logan because that's really a story about the Marvel Universe.
Yeah, and there's a lot they'd have to do to get it to that point.
Yeah, because you get no Hawkeye, you get no Red Skull, you get no Hulk, and that's...
A lot of them are dead, yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, those three characters in particular, that creates the Old Man Logan storyline.
Yeah.
Because in the original storyline, it's the supervillains finally won and took over the country, split it up amongst themselves. The president, as it's called, is the Red Skull. And the whole plot line is Hawkeye, who is now blind, needs Wolverine to sort of act as a courier with him to transport something to the Washington, D.C. area where Red Skull is in charge.
And, of course, a lot of the heroes are dead because... Wolverine was tricked.
Yes, Wolverine got tricked into taking out. And I hope that's not a spoiler for the movie, but either way, we're going to be seeing an elderly Wolverine, which, I mean, Hugh Jackman's getting on in years, so that's fine. You know he's going to still be more ripped than the last. Every movie, actor gets older, character gets more ripped.
Yeah. I just watched X-Men Origins again last night. And
Why?
Because it's a fun movie.
No, it's not.
Or not Origins. I mean, sorry, the First Class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Oh, no. That's a one and done.
We're
done with that. No, that doesn't...
Not a good idea.
We don't go there.
Yeah.
The Wolverine. I liked that one fine.
And it was okay.
It was
Too
a little
much
bit of a
CG
misuse of the Silver Samurai.
Yes,
I didn't need it to be an old man in a robot suit.
No, that was too much.
Whatever.
The rest of it I thought was fine because it's like, here's just a movie, and it happens to star Wolverine in it.
Yes.
And that is a good Wolverine story. It's like...
And I liked him being in a prison during the bomb being dropped on Nagasaki, and that
some of
was
that
a good
element,
a touch of his past,
the dude still would have died from all the radiation, but
not him.
That's just science. No, not Wolverine.
The other guy.
Yeah, where he's like, he might block him from the blast itself, but there's a link. In any case, we're both.
Radiation
assume,
goes up. He went down.
Oh, well,
so
that works.
It's like, heat
That's
rises.
The cloud.
And cold
yeah,
sinks.
with the cloud.
Yeah.
So both looking forward to Wolverine, I take it. Nodding.
Very much
yes.
so, yeah,
okay.
Totally.
Let's move over to DC stuff. Got a couple different DC things. First is the Legends of Tomorrow Season 2 sizzle reel. Now, did you watch any of Season 1 of Legends of Tomorrow?
No.
Okay.
I watched that trailer that you sent me, and I'm like, oh, cool, it's got that guy and that guy and that guy. But
I feel like they were going for a Firefly sort of feel where here's our ship. Everybody lives in this ship. It's a smattering of characters you might recognize from the DC universe. In that case, all of them were introduced in either Flash or Arrow. Mm-hmm. And then they would start doing this idea of, and now we're going to jump through time and we get to play with the rest of the toy box. That idea is amazing. The fact that we're like, let's do a live action DC show where we just put whoever we want into the show at any point in time. And the benefit of it is we're traveling through time like crazy, so we can get older person, younger person, doesn't need to be the same actor for the same character.
Yep.
We can lose people off the ship, bring people on the ship, because we lost Captain Cold in Season 1.
We can find a way to reuse that Marlon Brando voiceover from from Superman.
That's right. That's right. So
get more mileage out of it. You might as well.
Might as well. I love that idea. The execution of it, I'm sure a lot of it had to do with budget. A lot of it had to do with what kind of show they wanted it to be. There was an episode of Fat Man on Batman with Brandon Routh, who plays the Atom, and previously was Superman. In Superman Returns.
With a toned-down package.
And now it's, he's playing basically Iron Man. Like, their version of the Atom, he can finally shrink now and grow in one thing. So he's basically
You'd think naming
Ant-Man.
himself the Atom, that would be the beginning of his origin. Like, not like, oh, I had to discover.
But it's like this armored suit. It's very Iron Man-ish, where he flies around and stuff. And I'm not. That's a little too much for me. And I don't like the weird visor thing.
Now
I like him
though.
Like he's
spandex again, maybe.
Yeah. Well, he's a fantastic actor though. Very much sort of the heart of the show. But in that interview, he was saying that a lot of the actors, I don't know that they were upset, but it was just nobody ever really got to shine because you make your cast too big and your storyline makes no freaking sense at all. Because their whole thing is like, we need to travel through time to defeat Vandal Savage in like 8 different occasions. They clearly have the opportunity, or it's super easy for them to do it. Because when you deal with time travel, you need to make some huge just junk you throw in to try and explain, oh, but we can't just go 5 minutes in the past when we knew he was ready for us.
Yeah.
And you're like, why not? Because time.
Yeah.
We
can't just go back and stop him from existing in the first place if we have access to time travel.
And obviously it's time travel anyway, so suspension of disbelief. But it looks like they're going to try and go further this one. We're going to get the Justice Society. We're going to get Jonah Hex, which who was introduced in the first season. And who else was in there? Who else was in that trailer? I'm trying to think. Vixen, but not the Vixen we were introduced to in the Arrow. I think it was Arrow that we had Vixen. Or was it Flash? I believe it was Arrow. But in any case, it's a younger actress because they're pulling her from earlier in the timeline. And I believe that's strictly just because the actual actress was not available when they wanted to shoot. But it gives them the opportunity to really play around. They're bringing back some characters who have been killed or defeated. So you had the Reverse Flash and Damien Dark, villains from the other shows.
If they're going to do time travel.
Yeah.
You know who they have to bring in eventually?
Booster Gold.
The Wild Stallions.
See, we're on 2 different wavelengths there. I was still looking at DC. I was like, well, Booster Gold, because that's his whole thing. And he has some very specific connections to Rip Hunter, who's sort of...
he's a time traveler. Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Booster Gold is Rip Hunter's father. Who said that? Spoilers? Spoilers? I don't know. I don't know who said that. In any case, it looks like they're... I hope they have more fun. It's just one of those things where when your production value is so low because you just don't have the money... It's so tough because I want the show to exist. Mm-hmm. I'm happy the show is here because I love that they're like
CW, so it's not going to have the big bucks.
But keep in mind, CW is the home for DC right now. Yeah. They got 4 nights a week. You got Supergirl, Flash, Arrow, Legends of Tomorrow. Like they are, and good for them because, and it's all a connected universe now. Like technically, Supergirl is a different universe, different Earth or something. But they still did the crossover episode with The Flash. It's the same executive producer. It's Greg Berlanti running the whole show. And they're having a blast. Flash is awesome. It's considered one of the best shows on network television, at least. Just because they're having fun. Arrow is way too serious and too dark, and they're taking themselves way too seriously. Flash is awesome, because it's just it's a comic book brought to life. Bright colors, cool stuff. And then, of course, the CW, we're pretty, let's have issues. Yeah. And then Legends of Tomorrow, like I said... Yeah. But Legends of Tomorrow, I'm happy it's there. I don't know that I'm going to watch every episode. Maybe I'll wait and then binge it.
Yeah, I'll wait for like a greatest hits sort of thing.
Yeah. Other trailer we had from DC was a video game for DC Legends, which is a cell phone game, and I just included it in there for you.
Until I found out it was a
cell phone game, and the voiceover is so... She's so bored.
She is.
It's just this woman. She does not sound excited. And I'm not going to say she doesn't sound nerdy because you don't need to.
No.
But my first inclination was you do not sound like a fan of this material.
Not at all.
But she's just like, play all of your favorite characters.
The Green Lantern.
And
Superman.
And, and it was like, and it was way longer than it needed to be. It could have just been like music. And, like, show the characters punching one another, and you're like, cool, a fighting game. Oh, and I can play it on my phone or my tablet. That's neat.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and you can like make your characters look different over time by unlocking new wardrobe changes
and giving them money.
Abilities.
It's going to be giving them money.
Yeah, of
You're
course
going to
it's
have to
giving
spend money. It's all going to be microtransactions.
Oh yeah.
Here's the real reason I wanted to bring it up to complain. And the real reason I sent it to you. The villain of this game is Necron, because you can build your own Lantern Corps, which is neat. The villain is Necron, who was sort of the leader of the Black Lanterns, one of the embodiments of death in the DC universe, who actually goes way back before Blackest Night. They brought him back after being gone for... There was one appearance of him in a Green Lantern comic in the 90s, but before that he was a much earlier character. And his lackeys, I guess for lack of a better word, are manhunters, which are robots. The whole point... I'm going to get close to the mic. Hey, lean in, people. Lean in, okay? You ready for this?
Yeah, I'm ready.
The whole point of Necron is that he brings people back from the dead as zombies.
And the whole point of Manhunters...
That was Blackest Night.
Is that they're robots.
The robots with no emotions. Let's lean back. I hope everybody got that.
Yep.
It makes no sense to me.
By the
Guardians. I guess is it Black Hand and not Necron, and maybe Necron is upset, or Black Hand is working for Necron. I gotta go back and read Blackest Night. It was a really good series, and some of the tie-ins were actually pretty good too, because it was all like, oh my god, it's, you know, everybody has characters that die in order to validate their actions and push them forward in superhero stories, and all of those characters come back as zombies trying to kill them. Mm-hmm. So there's some really good emotional moments and stuff in there, but I don't know, the zombie guy using robots, and you're just like, I don't...
You've got an army of the undead.
I'm really happy that you guys got a hold of the property and are able to make a game for DC and for fans.
Just make the Manhunters the bad guys.
Why don't you just talk to somebody who's read the comic?
Make it Sinestro. That's always Sinestro.
Yeah, if you're doing Lantern stuff, you have Sinestro, you have Atrocitus, leader of the Red Lanterns, who is the big villain in the Green Lantern cartoon, which really wish that I kept going. I didn't want to watch it at all at first because I was taken aback by the animation style, but after 2 seasons of that show, it's such a good show. Such a good show. All right, so that was DC, and we've done Marvel. Boy, what else do I have on here? I have some news tidbits, and some of these are in my regular episode, but you and I could talk about them. The last one is Ninjak versus the Valiant Universe. Now, did you ever read any Valiant comics?
Who did?
I did.
Okay, because I did not.
After it was canceled, Quantum and Woody.
I remember looking through bins and bins and bins of 5-cent comics that were all Valiant. Valiant this and Valiant that.
Yeah, Turok and because it started with like video game stuff. So they have Ninjak, who is a British spy who's also a ninja.
It looked like Michael Dudikoff in that.
It is the dude who played Deadshot in Arrow.
Okay.
So I don't know. I don't know the actor's name, and I don't feel like looking it up.
Michael Dudikoff is like the American Ninja, you know, the Canon Films ninja guy,
like the American Ninja. Yeah, I don't know that it's that dude.
It looked like him though. I was like, is he still getting work?
What I remember of Ninjak was simply the fact that it was like a ninja. It was a white dude, but he was like a ninja dressed in purple with the sword, and then he had a handgun as well. And you're like, oh, that's not very ninja of you.
Not at all.
But apparently, popular thing, it's also going to have the character called Bloodshot in there, who is a very regenerative, think like a Lobo type of character.
All right.
Meets Wolverine. He can't remember his past. He can regenerate and, I don't know, weapons, something. There's going to be a Valiant fan out there super angry at me that I didn't look any of this up. Exo Manowar, who, as I understand it, is kind of like an Iron Man thing, but he can't take the suit off.
Yeah.
And I think it's another one of those using it is killing him.
Yeah, I think he has a finite amount of energy.
Or if he takes it off, maybe one of those things where it contains
I have a few
their power.
of those Exo Manowar comics somewhere in my collection.
Okay, so that sounds right. And then a comic that you might actually enjoy and would actually be an amazing cosplay for you is we see a couple short shots of Archer and Armstrong. And now Armstrong is the big hobo-looking dude, because he is, but he's also a super strong immortal. He just chooses to be a hobo.
Oh, okay.
And because there's like 2 people, because there's him and then the other immortal dude is called the Eternal Warrior. Is their other big one. And here's my problem, and I will say it every time I bring up Valiant. Where's my Quantum and Woody? There's been 2 series and several miniseries after that. The original Quantum and Woody run is one of the most hilarious, non-PC, awful joke comic books in existence, and then they rebooted them, so it was modern, and it was still hilarious. Not, for my money, not as hilarious, but I was also reading the original as like a teenager, and I literally was able to go to the store and buy every single issue, like at once, for like $15.
I'm surprised it was that much.
And now for like $100, you can get it all in one big fat volume, and I'm tempted because I'm more likely to go. Or actually, they're re-releasing the original series in trades as well.
Okay.
And I am tempted to do it as cheap as it was to buy the original series because I'm so much more likely to pick up a trade and reread a series than I am to pull out a handful and a giant stack of loose comics.
Yeah.
Just due to the nature of when and how I read comics. I'm on a plane.
Plus, in a graphic novel, you don't have the advertisements like you do
also
in the
nice.
actual loose.
Though there is a little bit of nostalgia tied into seeing old like Nintendo ads.
It depends on the comic. If it's from like 94 or prior, I totally want to see those.
Yeah.
Because you've got a likelihood of seeing those wonderful Hostess ones with like, Hulk needs a ding-dong or he'll keep smashing, you know, or Thor isn't able to fight unless he has his snowballs, you know.
Right.
Like,
well, yeah, but I mean, even the later
great.
ones, you have like the Tiger games.
Oh, yeah.
You know, which children today will never understand the joy of a game where all you were able to do is move one space to the left or one space to the right.
And up, maybe.
And that was it.
Yeah.
And if they gave even
you had one attack.
Yep.
And maybe a block.
And if
that didn't work.
If they gave you the sense that you were side-scrolling by animating legs, and not really animating, they just lit up the different parts. Like every...
And the timing of it was always wrong.
Always.
If you're like, oh, that ninja star is about to hit me, I should jump. You jump, and it hits you.
Yeah.
Every time.
The joys of those games. And yet, we love them.
I got to the second level on Batman.
Would cry. Yeah. Cry without them. So that is the entire trailer rundown. I'm going to see how we doing on time before we dig into other news and stuff. We are at 53 minutes, so that might have to wrap it up. I'm going to throw a couple little news bits at you. We're getting a biopic about the creator of Wonder Woman, who was a very different dude, and we're getting another standalone animated Wonder Woman movie.
Okay.
The original one is awesome that they did a while ago.
Watched?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
Because that was one of the first animated DC movies that they were doing in that style. So we're going to get another one. Defenders has a villain. Did you see this thing?
No.
We don't know the character yet, but it's going to be Sigourney Weaver.
Ooh.
So that's going to be good.
Anytime Sigourney Weaver
There's
shows
a lot
up,
of theories. I'm hoping for Mon Nucci from the Punisher series. You saw the picture of Mera from Justice League.
Still 100% on board with this Aquaman movie and the tie-in with the Justice League.
And the way that they're portraying Aquaman.
Yeah. That him
Momoa. And did you see the
him
behind the
taking
scenes footage
out of the
is
liquor
the other
bottle
one.
And just like being like, yeah, that's right. I'm not your mama's Aquaman. That's just like,
and then there was the other clip, which I think I talk about in my regular episode, and it's the behind the scenes footage because they wrapped filming in the UK, so Zack Snyder shared a little bit of behind the scenes footage, and you just see more of him just still being an absolute beast of a dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I love him. I'm so glad they cast Jason Momoa as Aquaman because he's got the popularity bringing in from like Game of Thrones and everything. I know he wasn't in it a lot, but still, he's cool and he's big and like he's charismatic.
Yep.
It's not like it's just gonna be some big blonde beefcake
and like
up there
grew
who
up
has
in
no
Hawaii or whatever, or he is Hawaiian. So like,
and you know who he has a child with? Lisa Bonet from the Cosby Show.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't.
Lenny Kravitz's former wife.
All right. That means nothing to me. But
did you watch the Cosby Show?
Yeah, of course. Everybody watched the Cosby Show.
Did you watch A Different World?
Not much. No.
Well,
I never really got into A Different World. The dude had the weird flip up.
You're too white.
Okay.
I put in my time watching both of those fine programs.
You're cultured, is what you're saying.
I am. I'm from the streets.
What I do like about this behind the scenes footage is, since it's behind the scene footage, you actually get to see color.
Yes.
Because when the movie comes out, it won't have any.
Yeah,
it won't have any. And then he also showed Batman very briefly in his tactical suit. Totally could have sworn it was Night Owl sitting there. I'm sorry. It's the exact same suit. I think they just painted over it. You know what they did? Maybe it's supposed to be an Easter egg, like when you had toys as a kid, and it's the exact same toy. They just give it a different paint job and call it a different character.
A belt.
Yeah, a different accessory.
Yep.
and they color it differently and call it a different
And
character.
maybe
That's
a different
what they did
head
here.
that was the head from a different toy, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see. Is there anything else for me to throw at you that I think you would dig on? Justice League Dark is coming as an animated film. I don't know if that series is still around, but it was yet another attempt to make a team of magical themed characters, because they had done many in the past. There was the Sentinels of Magic, there was Shadow Pact. DC's tried to do this a couple times, never with great success, because I think people just go to Vertigo when they want darker stuff.
And they're very obscure characters. They
Yeah.
don't have a lot of like big popular magic characters.
Right.
Yeah.
So, because I mean,
Dr. Fate is among the most
yeah,
popular, and he's still
Deadman.
not
Well, Zatanna. A lot of people know Zatanna just
Yeah.
because of the costume, and Constantine now
Yeah.
because they did the show. And interesting fact: the dude who played Constantine on the TV show live action is voicing Constantine for the cartoon. So at least he's hanging on to the character a little bit. Like the show got canceled,
and
he did a cameo in Arrow.
Oh, he wanted it so bad.
Yeah.
Kickstarter, come on.
Yeah. So, but that's coming out. I'm looking forward to that because it's another animated thing and it's going to get a little darker, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever read Wildstorm comics?
Some.
Wildstorm is back. DC
Okay.
bought them. They rolled the characters into the DC universe proper with New 52.
Am I
Obviously
thinking-
didn't work out. Now they're splitting Wildstorm off as a separate imprint again.
Is that like the Wildcats?
Okay. Yeah, Wildcats was Wildstorm.
I read a lot of
Overwatch.
them.
And I keep saying this, but I never know if I'm right. But the Authority and Planetary might have also been Wildstorm, I think.
Of all of that, I'm familiar with those, but I definitely read a lot of Wildcats.
Okay,
and
so
that cartoon show that.
the cartoon show.
Yeah.
Let's see. Maybe there's going to be a time between Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Netflix shows. Jeff Loeb just said, stay tuned. I'm guessing they're just going to reference it. I don't think we're going to get a whole lot of there. There may be something new with Blade coming, but it's very out there. There was a panel for the new Underworld movie, and somebody just asked, hey, what would you think about an Underworld Blade tie-in thing? Which you're like, oh, because they both have vampires, I guess. Like it. Yeah. And everybody wears leather.
Yeah.
And I guess Kate Beckinsale was like, no, we actually looked into that and they're doing something with Blade.
Oh.
And that was it.
Wesley Snipes is still willing to do it.
That didn't mean anything, though.
No.
Oh, God. If you want to hear a fun story, go back and read the production notes. And I don't know if it's official production notes, but the behind-the-scenes stuff for Blade Trinity.
Oh, I know a little bit.
Yeah.
Where he was stoned out of his mind in his
and
trailer
just
the whole
yelling
time.
at everybody.
And only communicating through like a PA.
And had to be called Blade at all times.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Man. Oh, Wesley. Oh, Wesley.
Beyond that, have you seen both seasons of Daredevil?
Yes.
So Karen Page is going to be in the Punisher series.
Okay.
And Madame Gao, as we saw in the trailer, is going to be in Iron Fist.
See, that's very cool.
Yes. And that fits as well because she's like part of the Hand.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of tying that in well. They're not just like throwing something in there and being like, hey. You know, like, yeah, the way they work it in, it's good.
So let's wrap it up. We'll see if we include that. We're coming up at about an hour, looks like, time. I don't mean to keep checking. I just have to be conscientious. I didn't do an episode at all last week, partly because trying to schedule, but last month I actually ran out of space, and I didn't want to spend more money because it cost me money to have the hosting space, and I only get so much allotted per month, and so my last episode of the month was like 10 minutes, 12 minutes, or something like that, versus my usual 35-hour, hour and a half for some of them. But so here's the big question, just like we did with last time. Most excited, who won New York Comic Con for you with all the news? Doesn't need to be comic related. What's the one thing you are most excited about?
Well, honestly, the one I'm most excited for is John Wick 2, but it's not the...
That's fine.
Okay. Well,
you got a
John
trailer
Wick 2 is the thing I'm totally most excited for.
You got a trailer for it.
Yeah.
Least excited for? I know, that's toughy, because there's a lot of weird stuff.
That's a
Doctor Who?
That's fighting hard, yeah. Although it's fighting hard with that Great Wall movie.
Great Wall.
Oh, man. But,
I have to say, even though there wasn't a whole lot, like, I think Wolverine.
Yeah, that's going to be sweet.
Just, and then I guess Iron Fist. Though I will say the tattoo looked a little too temporary tattoo. Yeah. With it, I think they could have made it look like, give me the symbol burned into his chest, because the whole thing is like has to do with, and I don't know that they're going to get into it. I doubt it, but like the dragons and all of the sort of history behind Iron Fist, like, give me that.
Yeah.
Give me like a burned in, singed in dragon symbol on his chest. You know, because when they show his power, everything's glowing, and that's sort of like, that's what I would have liked to have seen, instead of being like, I have a Sharpie and and a free afternoon. Beyond that, I guess Underworld. It's so tough. I like the movies well enough because I think they're fun. They're good action movies, and I dig vampires. And I like the way they're presented in here. I like the way they're done here. I don't dig all of the new monster hybrid things because that's too Resident Evil for me, where they could have stuck with the normal zombies and then had slightly mutated and stopped there instead of weird, crazy monsters for no reason.
Yeah.
And so the same with Underworld. Plus, every time they head in an interesting direction, they stop. Like, the whole time, at the end of the first movie, you're like, ooh, are we going to get into the politics? Because, like, this one big coven is down, and all of the elders that currently exist in the world that sleep and you know, jump around are gone. So she's like, changes are coming. We've discovered the secret start of the war that nobody is supposed to know from hundreds of years ago. You're like, oh, cool. We're going to see some of this infighting happen. And then in the next one, not really.
Hybrid. Ooh, there's a hybrid.
Which is fine.
And
because
then
that was the whole point of the story. They don't do a whole lot with them except you're really powerful, I guess.
Yeah.
You can't eat food, but we can tear a hole in you.
And it was like, it's not even like when he fights Bill Nye, it's not like, oh, well, he wipes the floor with him. It's just like, you know, he's supposed to be the
because
ultimate.
He's supposed to be... Well, because the guy's supposed to be the strongest, you know, vampire thing, too. Yeah. And then the second one, it's another hybrid, but this time he has wings and stuff because I guess whatever.
Isn't he the original vampire?
We wanted a new...
It was,
didn't they go... Like,
wasn't
he was
it
the
Dracula
son.
without using Dracula?
Yeah, he was the original vampire. And then we get... But again, we get an interesting... Ooh, there's a third faction. The human descendants of this family are the ones who are taking care of it, keeping it in the shadows so everybody else doesn't learn about it. How interesting. Are we going to learn? No, not really. And then we get the prequel, which had its issues. And then we get into the fourth film, and it's like, okay, we're going to jump into the future. Humanity knows between the two giant fights, they're saying there was real repercussions. Cool. For some reason, also, we don't have Michael in it, which is fine because Scott Speedman wasn't around to be the actor.
And Scott Stipe just couldn't get his stuff together.
Yeah, so they're just like, okay, so it's in the future, but there's another hybrid because she got pregnant and had a child in this time. And you're like, oh, okay, I guess. And there's some interesting ideas, again, at play, but it doesn't seem linear. It's like we're skipping around in chapters of a book.
Yeah.
And we're missing all the stuff in between, and we're not getting that info because I have... the comic adaptations, there's the animated shorts that came with the Blu-ray release of one of the films. I think the first one. I'm probably wrong there. But, like, again, there's these interesting ideas. And so it's like, oh, and the end of the third one, it's like, oh, she gets more powerful. She can walk in the sunlight. Oh, cool. Are we going to see a lot of this? Not really. We don't really get a whole lot of that in the fourth one. And it's like, oh, there's another vampire coven, and here's a young, pretty white dude for some reason. And we're introducing this cop detective because we always have to have a cop in our stories, you know. And then in this new one, again, no Michael, and she's like, I don't even know where my kid is. And you're like, that was the whole point of the ending, is like, the world is at war again with vampires. We're going to fight to survive in this new world. Come with me, daughter. And you're like, you know what? Fine, I'll get behind it. Introducing a kid is always sort of this out of left field thing, but I totally said I wasn't going to do a big Underworld thing. I apologize. I went off on a little rant.
It's fine.
So I'm looking forward to the film. It looks like they're making her even more powerful again, which I'm just give me a better story. Stop giving me spectacle. I know it's part of the series and I want it in there, but the reason I liked the first one is there was a cool underlying story. The narrative was interesting and pushed it along.
Any movie can have guns going off. You're dealing with vampires and werewolves and you know, a world where you can genetically mix the two and
it was an interesting take where it's like vampires
stuff.
And werewolves, but it's the modern day, so they're just still going to shoot at each other. They're just coming up with cool bullets to do it. And I know there's the argument of them stealing it from White Wolf and like the Vampire the Masquerade and that whole game world. I think there was even a lawsuit. Yeah, so I would say I'm looking forward to Underworld. I think who won it for me is got to be a tie between Iron Fist and, even though it's only a poster, Wolverine. And then I would say the one that trails behind it is the scene from Walking Dead Season 7. I have to imagine diehard fans of the show, which is not me. I did finish watching the last season on Netflix, but I wasn't watching it as it came out. I love the comic. I read the comic every month. But they have to just be losing it because it actually pans down to just the pile of blood and body parts. So you know somebody's, and we always knew somebody was going to die because you hear it at the end of the last season. It just cuts to black. But I think those are my winners. Mm-hmm. And then least favorite, probably the Doctor Who spinoff. I feel like I should be more interested in Legion than I am. Oh, and
that cell phone game is kind of like,
Necron's Manhunters.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to resurrect these robots from the dead.
And, I'll command their loyalty by...
being the bad guy of the story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so evil, they'll just do what I want.
I like that, and I also like the voice you use to say that. I think that should be a cartoon somewhere. And that should be the driving force. It's just, because I'm evil, they will do what I want. All right, well, cool. Well, thank you for joining me again on the Comic Box. Obviously, you're always welcome back. And I like that this is good because you're not forced to read a ton of comics to do it. I just was like, hey, here's a bunch of trailers. Watch these.
Yeah, and I totally did.
And you totally did.
Some as I was driving over here.
That's dangerous. You shouldn't do that.
It's highway.
I still don't support that. Kids, lean in. Don't text and don't use your cell phone at all while you're driving unless there's some sort of hands-free headset or something. This is your Uncle Rob telling you that's dangerous. Don't listen to Liam. Don't be like Liam, kids. Grow the beard.
Drink herbal tea.
Grow the beard. Don't be like Liam. Enjoy comics like Liam.
Yes.
And there.
And the Vikings.
And sure, you can
not
like Vikings.
the NFL team.
Not the NFL team. Copyright trademark.
Yeah.
Minnesota Vikings.
Are we going to have to get permission to broadcast this now because we just mentioned
the name? But anyway, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for having me over. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Ready to close it out?
Let's
close out episode. I think this will be episode 21.
Ooh.
The show
number 21.
The show can legally drink. So we will end with a ba-da-ba-ba-doo-bow.
Do-do-do-da-da-ska-ba.
Da-da-da-ba-da-ba-doo-ba-doo-wow.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Da-da-da-ba-doo-ba-doo. But the Comic Box.
Comic Box.
New York Comic Con thing with Liam here. Da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-boo.
Who cares?
Good.
That's a movie quote.